Captain Lee Minho stood in the cold metal corridor of the Earth Defense Station. His hands were sweaty inside his uniform gloves. Today was the day that would decide humanity's future in the galaxy. Behind him walked Engineer Park Ji-ho and Dr. Shin Naeun. Both looked as nervous as he felt. The station orbited Mars like a giant metal ring. Through the thick windows, Minho could see the red planet below and the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, alien fleets fought wars that humanity could barely understand. Soon the aliens would judge whether Earth deserved to join those battles. "Captain, are you ready for this?" Park asked quietly. His voice shook a little. Minho nodded but said nothing. He was not ready. Nobody could be ready for what waited in the main conference hall. They walked through automatic doors that slid open with a soft hiss. The conference hall was huge and filled with beings that looked nothing like humans. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that made Minho's nose itch. At the far end of the room sat Ambassador Kyle of the Vorthak Empire. His skin looked like green leather and his eyes were yellow with black centers. When he spoke, his voice sounded like gravel grinding together. Next to him sat Commander Kim Soo-young, the only other human in the room. Her face was stone cold and showed no emotion. "Captain Lee Minho of Earth," Ambassador Kale said, "you have come to present your species' contribution to our great alliance." "Yes, sir," Minho replied. His voice came out smaller than he wanted. "Show us this weapon that Earth believes will help us defeat the Nexari horde." Through the large viewing window behind the ambassador, Minho could see his ship. The Taeguk floated in the station's docking bay like a metal box with engines stuck to it. Compared to the sleek alien vessels nearby, it looked like something a child had built from scrap parts. The ship's hull was covered in welded patches. Thick cables ran along its outside where they should have been hidden inside the walls. The main engines were too big for the ship's size and looked like they had been bolted on as an afterthought. Paint peeled off in several places, showing the bare metal underneath. "That is your warship?" asked another alien. This one had blue skin and 4 arms. When it spoke, all 4 hands moved at once. "It appears to be damaged." "No, sir." Park stepped forward. "The Taeguk is working exactly as designed." The blue alien made a sound like clicking. Minho realized it was laughing. "Explain your design philosophy," Commander Kim said. Her voice was sharp and cold. Minho knew she was embarrassed by what Earth had built. Park took a deep breath. "The ship uses modular construction. Each section can work independently if others are damaged. The external cables allow for quick repairs during combat. The oversized engines provide extra power for emergency situations." "Emergency situations?" Ambassador Kale leaned forward. "A proper warship should not have emergency situations. It should have overwhelming force that prevents emergencies." "With respect, sir," Dr. Shin spoke up. "Humans have a different approach to warfare. We prepare for things to go wrong." "Things should not go wrong if you build your ships correctly," the blue alien said. "Look at this construction. The armor plating is uneven. The weapon mounts are placed randomly. Even the paint job shows poor attention to detail." Minho felt his face turn red. "The armor is designed to deflect shots at angles that—" "Captain," Ambassador Kale held up one clawed hand. "We have seen enough. This vessel violates every known principle of proper starship design. Its weapons are underpowered. Its engines are inefficient. Its structure appears ready to fall apart. But, sir, if you would let us demonstrate, there is no need for demonstration. The Galactic Defense Coalition has standards. This vessel meets none of them." Commander Kim stood up. Her movements were sharp and angry. "The Coalition has been generous in allowing humanity to join our alliance. However, your military contributions have been consistently below acceptable levels. Your ships are too slow to keep up with our fleets. Your weapons cannot penetrate modern enemy shields. Your tactics are unpredictable and dangerous to Allied vessels." The words hit Minho like punches. Everything she said was true, but it hurt to hear it spoken so coldly. "For 3 years we have tried to integrate human forces into coalition operations," Kim continued. "In every case, your people have caused more problems than they solved. Human pilots ignore direct orders. Human engineers modify equipment without permission. Human commanders make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. We are still learning," Minho said quietly. "Learning time is over," Ambassador Kale declared. "The Nexari horde grows stronger every day. We cannot afford to carry dead weight in our fleets. Therefore, the Coalition Command has made a decision." The room became very quiet. Minho could hear his own heartbeat. Earth's military forces are hereby restricted to your home system. You will serve as a final defense line only. Your ships will not join coalition fleets. Your personnel will not participate in offensive operations. Your prototype vessel is deemed operationally useless. The words hit harder than Minho expected. Operationally useless. He had spent 2 years of his life working on the Taguk. Park had designed systems that could keep working even when everything went wrong. Dr. Shin had created new ways to generate power and maintain life support. All of it was now officially worthless. Captain Lee, Commander Kim's voice cut through his thoughts. You will remove your vessel from this station immediately. Its presence is disrupting proper military atmosphere. Yes, ma'am, Minho managed to say. The aliens began talking among themselves, ignoring the humans completely. Their voices mixed together in sounds that hurt Minho's ears. He caught fragments of their conversation. Words like primitive, embarrassing, and waste of resources. Minho, Park, and Dr. Shin walked back through the corridors in silence. Their footsteps echoed off the metal walls. Other beings they passed looked at them with expressions that clearly meant pity or disgust. When they reached their small shuttle, Park finally spoke. Captain, what do we do now? Minho looked back at the conference hall, then at his ship floating in the docking bay. The Teguk looked even worse next to the sleek coalition vessels. But it was still his ship, built with human hands and human ideas. We go home, he said. We prepare for what comes next. What comes next? Dr. Shin asked. Minho did not answer because he did not know, but deep in his gut he felt that this was not the end. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and sometimes the things that looked useless turned out to be exactly what you needed. The shuttle carried them away from the station toward their dismissed ship. Behind them, the aliens continued their important meetings about the war against the Nexari horde. None of them bothered to watch the humans leave. They had no idea what they had just thrown away. 6 months passed like a slow, painful dream. Captain Lee Minho sat in his command chair aboard the Teguk, watching Earth turn slowly beneath them. The blue and white planet looked peaceful from orbit, but Minho knew better. Down there, billions of people went about their daily lives without knowing how close danger was getting. The bridge of the Teguk was small and cramped. Exposed pipes ran along the ceiling, and the walls were covered with control panels that looked like they had been built by hand. Which they had been. Park Jiho worked at the engineering station, constantly checking and rechecking systems that never seemed to work quite right. Captain, Dr. Shin Naeun called from her science station. We are getting another transmission from the outer colonies. Minho rubbed his tired eyes. For weeks now, bad news had been pouring in from across the galaxy. The Nexari horde was winning battle after battle against the coalition forces. Each defeat meant millions of beings dead and entire worlds burned to ash. Put it on the main screen, he said. The front view screen flickered and showed the face of a Vorthak military officer. His green skin was pale and his yellow eyes were wide with fear. Behind him, Minho could see smoke and flashing red lights. This is Commander Zeth of the Coalition Third Fleet, the alien said. His voice shook. We are retreating from the Kalos system. The Nexari have new weapons. Our shields cannot stop them. They can pass right through our defenses like they are not there. The transmission cut to static. Minho stared at the empty screen and felt cold fear in his stomach. The Third Fleet had been one of the Coalition's strongest forces. It had over 200 ships and the best weapons in the galaxy. Sir, pilot Choi Hyun-woo spoke from his station. That is the Fourth Fleet this week. The Nexari are moving faster than anyone expected. Park looked up from his engineering controls. Captain, if they have weapons that can go through Coalition shields, what chance do we have? Our shields are much weaker. Before Minho could answer, the communication system beeped again. This time it was Admiral Yoon Tae-hyung calling from Earth Defense Command. All ships, this is Admiral Yoon. Report to the command center immediately. We have an emergency situation. An hour later, Minho and his senior officers sat in the underground command center, buried deep beneath Seoul. The room was filled with screens showing star maps and battle reports. Red symbols marked where Coalition fleets had been destroyed. There were far too many red symbols. Admiral Yoon stood at the front of the room. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in Earth's last world war before humanity reached the stars. Now he faced something much worse. The situation is critical, the Admiral began. In the past month, the Nexari horde has destroyed 7 Coalition fleets. They have burned 15 worlds and killed over 3 billion beings. Their new phase-shift weapons can pass through any known shield technology. He pressed a button and the main screen showed a map of the galaxy. A line of red dots marked the path of Nexari destruction. The line was pointed straight at Earth. Intelligence reports indicate that War Chieftain Razak is leading the main Nexari force toward our system. They have over 300 ships. Their message was clear. Humanity will serve as an example of what happens to coalition allies. Complete extinction is their goal. The room became very quiet. Minho could hear people breathing and the soft hum of computers. 300 ships. Earth had only 12 operational warships, and the Taeguk was the newest among them. Sir? Captain Yoon Jae-hyun of the destroyer Busan spoke up. What about coalition reinforcements? Surely they will send help. Admiral Yoon shook his head sadly. The coalition is retreating to defend their core worlds. Ambassador Kael made it clear that Earth is considered expendable. We are on our own. How long do we have? Asked Captain Kang Minji of the cruiser Sejong. 2 weeks at most. The Nexari fleet was last seen 3 systems away. They are not trying to hide their approach. They want us to know they are coming. Minho felt sick. 12 ships against 300. It was not a battle. It was suicide. But then he looked around the room at the other captains and saw something that surprised him. They were scared, yes, but they were not giving up. Admiral, he said, standing up. What are your orders? We will make our stand at the edge of the solar system. Every ship will fight. We cannot win, but we can make them pay a price for what they do to Earth. After the meeting, Minho walked slowly back to his ship. The corridors of the defense station felt different now. People moved with purpose but also with fear. Everyone knew what was coming. Park was waiting for him in the Taeguk's engine room. The engineer was covered in grease and looked exhausted. Captain, I've been thinking about our situation, Park said. We cannot fight the Nexari the way the coalition fights. Their ships are too fast, too strong, and too many. What do you suggest? We fight the way humans have always fought when we were outnumbered. We use everything they think is wrong about us. Dr. Shin appeared in the doorway. She had been listening. Park is right, Captain. The coalition rejected us because we do not follow their rules. Maybe that is exactly what we need. Explain, Minho said. The coalition builds ships to fight clean, organized battles in open space, Dr. Shin continued. Their tactics are based on superior technology and overwhelming firepower. But what if the battle is not clean? What if we make it messy and chaotic? Park nodded eagerly. The Taeguk was designed for survival, not for pretty space battles. We can take damage that would destroy other ships. We can repair systems while fighting. We can change our tactics in the middle of battle. You are talking about asymmetric warfare, Minho said slowly, using unconventional methods against a superior enemy. Exactly, Dr. Shin said. The coalition thinks our methods are primitive and dangerous. The Nexari probably think the same thing. That could be our advantage, Minho thought about it. For months, everyone had told him that human ways of fighting were wrong. The aliens had better ships, better weapons, and better training. But humans had something else. They had the ability to adapt and survive in situations where logic said they should die. What do you need? He asked. Park smiled for the first time in days. Time to modify our systems, and permission to break every rule in the Coalition Tactical Manual. You have both, Minho said. If we are going to die, we might as well die as humans. Over the next 2 weeks, the Taeguk became something new. Park installed systems that could work even when the ship was falling apart. Dr. Shin programmed the computers to think like humans instead of like logical machines. Pilot Choi practiced maneuvers that would have horrified Coalition instructors. When the Nexari fleet finally appeared at the edge of the solar system, Earth was as ready as it could be. 12 small human ships waited near the asteroid belt. They looked tiny and helpless compared to the massive alien fleet. War Chieftain Razak broadcast his message across all frequencies. Humans of Earth, you have allied with our enemies. For this crime, your species will cease to exist. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Admiral Yoon's reply was simple. Come and take us, the storm was about to begin. War Chieftain Razak stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the human fleet through the view screen. 12 tiny ships floated near Earth's asteroid belt. They looked like toys compared to his 300 war vessels. The humans had arranged themselves in a loose formation that made no tactical sense. This will be easier than I thought, Razak said to his second-in-command. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stone. These humans build ships like children playing with metal scraps. The Nexari fleet moved forward like a wall of death. Each ship was sleek and black with weapons that could burn through any known armor. Their shields glowed with energy that could stop the strongest coalition attacks. They had destroyed the greatest fleets in the galaxy. A dozen human ships would not even slow them down. "Begin the attack," Razak ordered. "Show these humans what happens to coalition allies." The Nexari opened fire with everything they had. Space filled with energy beams and plasma bolts. The human ships scattered like frightened animals. Within minutes, 11 of the 12 vessels exploded into clouds of burning metal and gas. Only one ship remained, the ugly prototype that the coalition had rejected months ago. The Teguk drifted helplessly toward the asteroid field, trailing atmosphere and sparks from damaged systems. "Pathetic," Razak muttered. "Finish it." But as his ships moved in for the kill, something strange happened. The Teguk suddenly vented atmosphere in 3 different directions. The escaping gases pushed the ship sideways, making it dodge between the asteroids like a drunken bird. "What is it doing?" asked the second-in-command. On the Teguk's bridge, Captain Lee Minho was asking his crew the same question. The ship shook and rattled as they flew between chunks of rock that could crush them at any moment. "Pilot Choi, are you insane?" Park shouted from his engineering station. "Those maneuvers should tear us apart." "That is the point," Choi replied, spinning the ship around a massive asteroid. "Our ship is built to take damage. Their ships are built to avoid it. In here we have the advantage." Dr. Shin was working frantically at her science station. "Captain, their sensors are having trouble tracking us. The asteroid field is interfering with their targeting systems." "But our sensors work fine," Minho realized. "Their technology is too advanced for this environment. Our primitive systems are actually better here." The first Nexari ships entered the asteroid field, confident they could easily destroy the crippled human vessel. But the asteroids were packed closer together than they expected. The sleek alien ships had to slow down and move carefully to avoid collision. The Teguk had no such problems. It flew between the rocks like it belonged there, using its crude construction and manual controls to navigate where sophisticated systems failed. "There," Choi pointed at a Nexari destroyer that was trying to line up a shot. "Park, can you give me more power to the forward guns?" "I can give you power, but we will lose life support in sections 4 and 5. "Do it." The Teguk's main gun fired. The energy beam struck the Nexari ship just as it was passing between 2 large asteroids. The alien vessel exploded, and the blast knocked both asteroids into the path of another Nexari ship. "One down," Minho said grimly. 299 to go. War Chieftain Razak watched his first ship die and felt a cold anger growing in his chest. "Send in more ships. Destroy that asteroid field if you have to." But sending more ships into the asteroid field only made things worse for the Nexari. Their advanced targeting computers could not tell the difference between asteroids and the human ship. Their sophisticated sensors were designed for clean space combat, not for flying through a cloud of spinning rocks. The Teguk used every dirty trick it could think of. When Nexari ships got too close, Engineer Park would deliberately overload systems to create electromagnetic pulses that confused alien sensors. When they needed to escape, Pilot Choi would ram small asteroids to change direction in ways that violated every law of physics and common sense. "This is impossible," Dr. Shin said, watching their tactical display. "We should have been destroyed 10 times over by now." "We are not fighting their kind of battle," Minho replied. "We are fighting a human battle. Messy, chaotic, and completely unpredictable." The running fight continued for hours. The massive Nexari fleet found itself unable to use its overwhelming advantage because they could not get their ships into position. Every time they tried to surround the human vessel, asteroids got in their way. Every time they lined up for a killing shot, the Teguk did something that should have been impossible. The human ship vented atmosphere to change direction. It used damaged systems as weapons, creating electrical arcs that fried nearby alien electronics. It even rammed asteroids deliberately, using the impacts to spin around and fire at surprised Nexari vessels. Their ship should have fallen apart by now, Razak's second-in-command reported. "But it keeps fighting. How is this possible?" Razak stared at the tactical display where 50 of his ships showed as destroyed or damaged, all by one primitive human vessel that looked like it had been built in a scrapyard. What kind of beings are these humans? He wondered aloud. On the Taguk, the crew was wondering the same thing about themselves. They had been fighting for 6 hours straight. The ship was held together by emergency welds and spare parts. Half their systems were offline. The air tasted like burning metal and fear, but they were still alive and the Nexari fleet was getting smaller. "Captain," Park called from his station, "I am reading massive power fluctuations in their main fleet. I think they are getting frustrated." "Good," Minho said. "Frustrated enemies make mistakes. Dr. Shin, what is our ammunition status?" "We have enough for maybe another hour of fighting. After that, we will have to get creative." Minho smiled for the first time since the battle began. "We have been creative from the start. That is why we are still breathing." Outside, the Nexari fleet regrouped and prepared for another assault. They had never faced an enemy like this before. An enemy that used weakness as strength and turned every disadvantage into a tactical opportunity. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the humans began to believe they might actually survive. War Chieftain Razak paced back and forth on his command bridge. His clawed feet made clicking sounds on the metal floor. Around him, his officers watched tactical displays that showed a battle that made no sense. "Report," he growled. "Sir, we have lost 73 ships," his second-in-command said quietly. "The human vessel continues to evade our forces in the asteroid field." 73 ships, Razak repeated, against one primitive human craft. He stopped pacing and stared at the main view screen. The Teguk was visible between two large asteroids looking like a metal box with engines. Scorch marks covered its hull and atmosphere leaked from several holes. "But it was still fighting. What are we missing?" Razak asked. "Their ship is crude. Their weapons are weak. Their tactics make no sense. How are they winning?" None of his officers had an answer. On the Taiguk, Captain Minho was asking himself similar questions. The bridge smelled like smoke and burned electronics. Sparks fell from damaged ceiling panels. The air recycling system wheezed like an old man with lung problems. "Engineering report," he called. Park looked up from a control panel he was rewiring by hand. "Main engines at 60%. Forward shields completely gone. Weapon systems working but barely. Life support failing in sections 2, 5, and 7. Pilot status?" Choi wiped sweat from his forehead. "I am flying this thing with manual controls and pure instinct, Captain. The navigation computer gave up an hour ago." "Science station?" Dr. Shin was bent over her instruments making calculations with pencil and paper because her computers kept overheating. "Sir, I have been studying their attack patterns. The Nexari fight like they are following a rulebook. Every move is logical and predictable, and we are not logical," Minho realized. "Exactly. We make decisions based on instinct and experience. We adapt to each situation as it happens. They cannot predict what we will do because we do not know ourselves until we do it." A new wave of Nexari ships entered the asteroid field, moving in perfect formation. Their movements were coordinated and efficient. They spread out to surround the human vessel in a textbook tactical maneuver. "They are trying to trap us again," Choi observed. "Then we do not get trapped," Minho said. "Park, can you overload the reactor containment system?" Park stared at him. "Sir, that could blow up the entire ship. Or it could give us the biggest electromagnetic pulse we have ever created." "How long would it take to restart the reactor?" "If we survive the overload, maybe 10 minutes. "Do it." Dr. Shin looked up from her calculations. "Captain, that is completely insane." "Good, the Nexari expect us to be logical. Let us give them insane instead." Park began typing commands into his control panel. Warning lights flashed red all over the bridge. The ship's computer voice, which had been damaged hours ago, stuttered out broken warnings about catastrophic system failure. The Nexari ships closed in, confident they had the human vessel trapped. Their energy weapons charged up for a synchronized attack that would vaporize the Taeguk instantly. Then Park pressed the final button. The Taeguk's reactor overloaded in a carefully controlled explosion. Electromagnetic energy burst out in all directions like an invisible wave. Every electronic system within 100,000 kilometers shut down instantly. The Nexari ships went dark. Their engines stopped. Their weapons powered down. Their life support systems failed. 15 alien vessels suddenly became metal coffins floating in space. "Reactor restart now," Minho ordered. Park's hands flew over his controls. The Taeguk had been designed for exactly this kind of situation. While the Nexari ships drifted helplessly, The human vessel came back to life piece by piece. Engines online, Park reported. Weapons charging. Life support restored to minimal levels. Target the disabled ships, Minho ordered. The Taiguk moved through the field of dead Nexari vessels like a predator among prey. Its weapons were not powerful enough to destroy the alien ships quickly, but they did not need to be quick. The Nexari crews were trapped in their dead ships, unable to fight back. One by one, the human vessel destroyed them all. Impossible, Razak whispered, watching his ships die. They deliberately crippled themselves to cripple us. What kind of warriors choose mutual destruction as a tactic? His science officer looked up from her instruments. Sir, their ship is designed differently than ours. Their systems can be shut down and restarted quickly. Our systems take much longer to recover from electromagnetic damage. They knew this would happen? They planned for it, sir. Their ship was built to survive exactly this kind of attack. Razak felt something he had never experienced before in battle. Fear, not fear of death, which was always possible in war. Fear of something he could not understand or predict. The human vessel emerged from the electromagnetic dead zone and immediately began using the destroyed Nexari ships as cover. It hid behind the hulks, using them as shields while it picked off more alien vessels that came too close. Sir, his weapons officer reported, they are using our own ships against us. I can see that, Razak snapped. The battle continued, but now it was different. The Nexari fleet was no longer confident and aggressive. They had learned to fear the ugly human ship that refused to die. Their movements became cautious and defensive. The humans sensed this change and pressed their advantage. The Taiguk began taking greater risks, flying closer to enemy ships and using tactics that bordered on suicidal. But somehow they worked. Captain, Dr. Shin called from her station. I am detecting communication signals between the Nexari ships. They are arguing among themselves. About what? Whether to continue the attack or retreat. Some of their commanders are questioning War Chieftain Razak's leadership. Minho smiled grimly. Fear and doubt. The best weapons any underdog can hope for. Park looked up from his repairs. Sir, we have lost most of our armor and half our weapons. But the ship will hold together for a while longer. How much longer? Long enough, Captain. Long enough. Outside, more Nexari ships entered the asteroid field. But now they moved slowly and carefully. Afraid of what the seemingly helpless human vessel might do next. They had superior numbers and technology, but they had lost something more important. They had lost their confidence. And in war, confidence was everything. The battle had been raging for 8 hours. War Chieftain Razak watched his tactical display with growing horror. What had started as a simple extermination mission had become a nightmare. His fleet of 300 ships was now down to 200. All because of one human vessel that refused to follow the rules of warfare. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving demands from fleet commanders. They want to know why we have not destroyed the human ship yet. Razak's jaw tightened. Tell them the humans fight like demons. Tell them this ship is cursed by dark spirits, sir. Tell them anything except the truth. The truth was something Razak could barely admit to himself. His overwhelming technological advantage meant nothing against an enemy that did not fight conventionally. Every time his ships tried to use their superior firepower, the humans found a way to turn it against them. On the Taiguk, Dr. Shin was making a discovery that would change everything. Captain, she called from her science station, I have been analyzing our battle damage and repair patterns. I think I understand what makes our ship different. Minho looked over at her. The bridge was a mess of sparking wires and improvised repairs. Half the control panels were held together with metal tape and spare parts, but somehow everything still worked. Explain, he said. The coalition ships are designed to avoid damage. Their shields, their armor, their tactics, everything is built around the idea that getting hurt is failure. But our ship is designed to get hurt and keep fighting. Park looked up from where he was welding a broken power coupling. Dr. Shin is right, Captain. Every system on this ship has 3 backup systems. Every critical component can be repaired or replaced during combat. We built this ship to survive, not to look pretty. The exposed cables, the modular construction, the oversized engines, Dr. Shin continued. Everything the Coalition called primitive is actually designed for battlefield survival. We can lose half our ship and still fight. They lose one critical system and they are dead in space. Minho thought about this. For months, everyone had told him the Taiguk was built wrong, but maybe it was built exactly right for the kind of war humans knew how to fight. "What do you need?" he asked. "Permission to implement Protocol Phoenix," Dr. Shin said quietly. Park stopped welding and stared at her. "Dr. Shin, that protocol is theoretical. We have never tested it in actual combat." "What is Protocol Phoenix?" Minho asked. "Complete system decoupling," Dr. Shin explained. "The ship breaks apart into individual sections, each fighting independently. Then they reassemble when the battle is over. It would look like we are being destroyed, but we would actually be multiplying our offensive capability. And if it does not work, then we die. But we are probably going to die anyway." Minho looked around his bridge. His crew was exhausted, injured, and running on pure determination. Their ship was held together by hope and engineering tape. They had already survived 8 hours of combat that should have killed them in the first minute. "Do it," he said. Dr. Shin began entering commands into her console. "Initiating Protocol Phoenix. All sections prepare for emergency separation." Throughout the ship, automated systems began unlocking mechanical connections. The Taiguk had been designed as a modular vessel, but no one had ever tried to use that feature in combat before. "Sir," the Nexari weapons officer reported to War Chieftain Razak, "the human ship is moving toward our main fleet formation." "Impossible. They would be surrounded and destroyed instantly." "That appears to be what they want, sir." Razak stared at the tactical display. The damaged human vessel was indeed flying straight toward the heart of his fleet, abandoning the protection of the asteroid field. It was either suicide or the most insane tactical decision he had ever witnessed. "All ships focus fire on the human vessel. End this." 200 Nexari ships turned their weapons on the approaching Taiguk. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled space like a deadly light show. The human ship flew straight into the storm of fire, taking hits that should have vaporized it instantly. But something strange began to happen. Instead of exploding, the Taiguk started to come apart in a controlled fashion. Sections of the ship separated and spread out, each piece still firing its weapons and maneuvering independently. "What is happening?" Razak demanded. "Sir, the human ship appears to be fragmenting, but each fragment is still active." The Nexari had prepared to destroy one ship. They found themselves facing 20 different targets, each moving unpredictably and attacking from a different angle. Their targeting computers, designed to track single large vessels, could not handle the swarm of small, fast-moving objects. The separated sections of the Taiguk moved through the Nexari fleet like angry wasps. They were too small for the alien ship's heavy weapons to target effectively, but large enough to carry weapons that could damage enemy vessels. "Engine section to bridge section," Park's voice came over the communication system. "I am attaching to a Nexari destroyer. Suggest you target their main weapons while I overload their engines." "Weapons section to all units," reported another crew member. "I have a clear shot at 3 enemy ships. Need covering fire." "Life support section to command," Dr. Shin called from her separated module. "I am jamming their communications. They cannot coordinate their attacks." Minho watched from his command section as the battle became complete chaos. The Nexari ships were firing in all directions, trying to hit targets that moved like nothing they had ever faced before. Several alien vessels accidentally shot each other in the confusion. The separated sections of the Taiguk worked together like they had trained for years, but they were making it up as they went along. Human adaptability and intuition guided their movements in ways that no computer could predict or counter. "Sir," the Nexari tactical officer reported in panic, "we have lost 60 ships in the last 10 minutes. The human vessel has multiplied itself somehow." War Chieftain Razak felt his world crumbling around him. Nothing in his military training had prepared him for this. The humans fought like no species he had ever encountered. They used destruction as a weapon and turned their weaknesses into strengths. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Fall back to minimum safe distance," but it was too late. The sections of the Taiguk had spread throughout his fleet, and they showed no intention of letting the aliens escape easily. They continued their attacks even as the Nexari ships tried to withdraw. Then something impossible happened. The scattered pieces of the human ship began moving back together. Like a puzzle reassembling itself, the sections docked with each other and reconnected their systems. Within minutes, the Taiguk was whole again. Battered, scarred, and smoking, but intact and functional. "Status report," Minho called as his bridge reconnected with the rest of the ship. All sections operational, Park reported. We lost some armor plating and a few non-critical systems, but we are still in the fight. Enemy status? 137 Nexari ships remaining, Dr. Shin announced. They are regrouping at long range. Minho looked at the tactical display. They had started this battle facing 300 enemy ships. Now less than half of the Nexari fleet remained, and those survivors were clearly demoralized and confused. Sir, Choi called from the pilot station, they are not attacking. They are just sitting there. They are afraid, Minho realized. They do not know how to fight us because we do not fight like anyone else. For the first time since the battle began, he allowed himself to hope that they might actually win this impossible fight. War Chieftain Razak stood alone on his command bridge, staring at the tactical display that showed his defeat. 137 ships remained from his original fleet of 300. All destroyed by a single human vessel that looked like it had been built from scrap metal. His officers watched him nervously. In Nexari culture, a war chieftain who lost 2/3 of his fleet would face execution. But first he had to explain how such a disaster was possible. Sir, his second-in-command spoke carefully. The fleet commanders are requesting new orders. Do we continue the attack? Razak looked at the human ship on the main screen. The Teguk floated between two asteroids, still leaking atmosphere from a dozen holes. Its hull was blackened and scarred. Pieces of armor plating drifted around it like metal confetti. By all logic, it should be dead, but it was not dead. It was waiting. What are those humans? Razak whispered. On the Teguk, Captain Minho was asking himself how they had survived this long. The bridge looked like a bomb had gone off inside it. Control panels sparked and smoked. The floor was covered with tools, spare parts, and pieces of broken equipment, but they were alive. Against all odds and logic, they were still fighting. Status report, he called. Park looked up from where he was trying to repair the main power coupling with a piece of wire and some tape. Engines at 30% power. Weapon systems barely functional. Life support working, but do not ask me how. We are running on fumes and pure stubbornness. How many more hits can we take? Honestly, Captain? We should have been destroyed hours ago. At this point, I think the ship is staying together through sheer willpower. Dr. Shin was monitoring the Nexari fleet from her science station. Sir, they are not moving. I think they are afraid of us. Afraid of us. Choi laughed from his pilot seat. We are barely floating. Half our systems are offline. That is exactly why they are afraid, Dr. Shin explained. We look defeated, but we keep fighting. From their perspective, we must have some secret weapon or hidden advantage. They cannot understand that we are just too stubborn to give up. Minho thought about this. The Nexari had expected to face a conventional enemy that would surrender when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, they had encountered humans who treated impossible odds as just another problem to solve. What are they waiting for? He wondered. His question was answered when the communication system crackled to life. War Chieftain Razak's face appeared on the main screen. The alien commander looked tired and defeated. Human vessel, Razak said. I would speak with your commander. I am Captain Lee Minho of the Earthship Taeguk. What do you want? I want to understand. My fleet had every advantage. Superior numbers, superior technology, superior training. How did you defeat us? Minho looked around his destroyed bridge at his exhausted crew. How could he explain something he barely understood himself? We did not defeat you, he said finally. We just refused to be defeated. That makes no sense. It does not have to make sense. That is the point. Razak was quiet for a long moment. Your ship should have been destroyed in the first attack. Your tactics violate every principle of warfare. Your technology is primitive and crude. Yes, Minho agreed. All of that is true. Then how? Because we built our ship to fight when everything goes wrong. We trained our crew to adapt when plans fall apart. We prepared for a battle where we would be outnumbered and outgunned. That battle is the only kind humans know how to win. War Chieftain Razak looked at something off-screen, probably his tactical display showing the wreckage of most of his fleet. When he looked back, there was something different in his eyes. Captain Minho, I formally surrender my fleet to you. The words hit Minho like a physical blow. What? I have lost over 160 ships to your single vessel. My warriors are demoralized and afraid. Continuing this battle would only result in more pointless deaths. I surrender. Minho felt his legs go weak. They had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won. Sir, Park called from his station, I am detecting coalition ships approaching. Lots of them. The main screen switched to show dozens of sleek alien vessels emerging from hyperspace. Admiral Yoon's voice came over the communication system from the Earth Defense Command. "Captain Minho, this is Admiral Yoon. We have been monitoring your battle. Coalition reinforcements have arrived, but it appears you no longer need them. Admiral, we have accepted the surrender of the Nexari fleet." There was a long pause. "Say that again, Captain." "The Nexari have surrendered, sir. War Chieftain Razak has offered the formal surrender of his remaining forces." Another pause, even longer. "Captain, are you telling me that one ship defeated an entire Nexari invasion fleet?" "Yes, sir. Though I am not entirely sure how." Within hours, the story spread across the galaxy. The human ship that the Coalition had dismissed as useless had accomplished what their greatest fleets could not. They had defeated the Nexari in open battle and accepted their surrender. Ambassador Kale arrived on the first Coalition ship, his expression mixing disbelief with embarrassment. He found Captain Minho in the Taeguk's medical bay, getting treated for injuries he had ignored during the battle. "Captain," Kale said, his voice much different than it had been months ago, "the Coalition owes you an apology." "You owe us more than that," Minho replied. "You owe us a new treaty." 3 days later, Minho stood in the same conference hall where the Coalition had rejected humanity months before. But this time the humans were not asking for acceptance. They were being begged to join. "The Coalition formally requests that Earth become our Special Warfare Division," Ambassador Kale announced. "Your unconventional methods have proven more effective than our traditional tactics." "What does that mean?" Minho asked. "It means we want you to teach other species how to fight like humans, how to win when victory should be impossible." Minho looked at Park and Dr. Shin, who had accompanied him to the station. They were heroes now, but they looked the same as they had before the battle. Tired engineers who had simply refused to give up. "We accept," Minho said, "but we do it our way." "Of course," Kale agreed quickly. "Your way is clearly superior to ours." Later, alone in his quarters aboard the new ship that was being built for him, Minho recorded his final log entry about the battle. "The galaxy thought our methods were wrong," he said to the recording device. "Our ships were too crude. Our tactics were too chaotic. Our technology was too primitive. They were right about all of it. But they missed the most important thing about humans. We do not need to be right. We just need to be too stubborn to quit." He paused and looked out his window at Earth, still blue and beautiful in the distance. "Sometimes the best way to win is not to be better than your enemy. Sometimes you win by being so completely different that they do not know how to fight you." Today the galaxy learned that lesson the hard way. The recording ended, but Minho's work was just beginning. There were other species to train, other battles to fight, and other impossible odds to overcome. After all, that was what humans did best.